Hello, welcome in for another edition of That Boy Was Busy, exclusively here on the Markouts Moment Network. I'm Pondwater Dave. Thank you for joining me as we're going to take a look at a team. So this is really going to be Those Boys Were Busy this week. With the unfortunate passing of Dennis Connery, I decided that we would take a look at the Midnight Express. The Midnight Express was working Mid-South in January of 1984. They were the epitome of busy with 32 matches in 31 days, traveling 8,245 miles. And that was by car. They didn't fly in that territory. And the heck of it is that they're going to start out on January the 1st of 1984 in Little Rock, Arkansas. But on New Year's Eve, they wrestled in Oklahoma City. So they drove 4.5 hours, like 340 miles on New Year's Eve to wrestle on New Year's Day. That had to be crazy back then. So why don't we just go ahead and get right into the Midnight Express, January of 1984. Like I said, on the Midnight Express, and we're only going to talk about Bobby Eaton and Dennis Connery. They defeated the team of Lanny Poffo and Rick Rude. Rick Rude was still spelling his last name R-O-O-D in 1984. This was at the Barton Coliseum in Little Rock, Arkansas. On the January the 2nd, the Midnight Express defeated George Weingroff and John King. I don't know if y'all know this about George Weingroff. George Weingroff was legally blind. He was a legally blind wrestler. On the 3rd of January in the Riverside Centroplex in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, the Midnight Express again defeated Lanny Poffo and Rick Rude. On the 4th, we're taping Mid-South Television, Wrestling Television, episode number 227 at the Irish McNeil Boys Club in Shreveport, Louisiana. The Midnight Express defeated George Weingroff and Lanny Poffo in 6 minutes and 9 seconds. And then on the 5th, they were in the Coliseum in Jackson, Mississippi, where they defeated Lanny Poffo and Rick Rude. On the 6th, they wrestled in Lake Charles, Louisiana at the Civic Center. This time they are billed with Jim Cornette, and they defeated George Weingroff and Lanny Poffo. On the 7th, they're at the Rapids Parish Coliseum in Alexandria, Louisiana, where they defeated the team of Joe Savoldi and Lanny Poffo. On the 8th, they are in Oklahoma City at the Myriad, and this time they are going to defeat Joe Savoldi and Rick Rude. On the 9th, they are in the Convention Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and they will again defeat the team of Lanny Poffo and Rick Rude. On the 10th, they're in the Municipal Auditorium in Shreveport, Louisiana, and this time they defeat Joe Savoldi and Rick Rude. Notice that they are winning. The Midnight Express is already, we're 10 days in. They're winning. They seem to be married to Rick Rude and Lanny Poffo. We're mixing in Weingroff and Savoldi. But on the 11th, in Low Ranger, Louisiana, for the Mid-South Tag Team Championship, Magnum TA and Mr. Wrestling 2 are the champions. They go against the Midnight Express, and it's a double disqualification in Low Ranger, Louisiana. On the 12th, in Port Arthur, Texas, the Midnight Express again defeat Lanny Poffo and Rick Rude. On the 13th, they're wrestling for Paul Bosch and the Sam Houston Coliseum in Houston, Texas, where they will defeat El Brasario and Lanny Poffo in 12 minutes and 20 seconds. On the 14th, they are in the East Park Recreation Center in Houma, Louisiana. I don't know if I've ever said it on this show. It is my absolute favorite place that I have ever refereed a match. The fans in Houma, Louisiana are incredible. They still believe. They are on the edge of their seats for every piece of action. I love going to Houma, Louisiana. And the Midnight Express defeated Lanny Poffo and Rick Rude in Houma. On the 15th, they're in the Rapids Parish Coliseum in Alexandria. This time they're going to defeat Joe Savoldi and Rick Rude. On the 16th, the Municipal Auditorium in New Orleans, they're going to defeat Joe Savoldi and Lanny Poffo. On the 17th, in the Civic Center in Lake Charles, Louisiana, they are getting another tag team title shot. Magnum TA and Mr. Wrestling 2 go to a double disqualification with the Midnight Express. On the 18th, for Mid-South Television, episode 229 at the Irish McNeil Boys Club in Shreveport, Mr. Wrestling and Magnum TA defeat the Midnight Express by disqualification in 5 minutes and 29 seconds. Also on the 18th, for episode 228, the Midnight Express defeat Mike Jackson and Roger Bond. That is Mike Action Jackson, who recently, at the age of 76, competed on TNA television. And he's still doing it every weekend, and he's doing it in a big way. Shout out to Mike Jackson. Keep on keeping on, sir. On the 19th, at the Mississippi Coast Coliseum in Biloxi, Mississippi, for the Mid-South Tag Team Championship, Magnum TA, Mr. Wrestling 2, defeat the team of the Midnight Express. On the 20th, again, for the Mid-South Tag Team Championship, TA and Mr. Wrestling 2 versus the Midnight Express goes to a double disqualification. This goes down in the National Guard Armory in Jackson, Mississippi. It's not far from where I live. I'm going to see where the National Guard Armory is. I know where the Coliseum is. On the 21st, in the Barton Coliseum in Little Rock, Arkansas, the Midnight Express defeat George Weingroff and Joe Savoldi. On the 22nd, they are in the auditorium in Lafayette, Louisiana. They're going to defeat George Weingroff and Lanny Poffo. On the 23rd, they're back in New Orleans at the Municipal Auditorium, getting a shot at the Tag Team Championships. And they defeat Magnum TA and Mr. Wrestling 2 by disqualification. So TA and Mr. Wrestling 2 hold on to the titles. The 25th, they are at the City Auditorium in Vicksburg, Mississippi. It's a great venue, y'all. I've had the opportunity to referee there a few times for BIW in the last few years. And when you walk in there, you can tell that place was made for wrestling. And there's some of the great matches took place there. Lots of history in that building. And on that particular night, the Midnight Express defeated George Weingroff and Lanny Poffo again. On the 26th at the Municipal Auditorium in Shreveport, Louisiana, for the Mid-South Tag Team Championship, the Midnight Express defeat Magnum TA and Mr. Wrestling 2 by disqualification. Title cannot change hands on a disqualification. They're back in Houston for Paul Bosch, the Sam Houston Coliseum, on the 27th. This time they will defeat Magnum TA and Mr. Wrestling 2 in 16 minutes and 56 seconds, but it's by disqualification. TA and Magnum keep getting disqualified against the Midnight Express. On the 28th, they're back in Alexandria at the Rapids Parish Coliseum, defeating George Weingroff and Joe Savoldi. On the 29th, they're at the Myriad in Oklahoma, and they're defeating George Weingroff and Lanny Poffo. Also on the 29th, they're at the Convention Center in Tulsa, so they did a double shot on the 29th, and they defeated Joe Savoldi and Lanny Poffo. On the 30th, for the Mid-South Tag Team Championship in the Municipal Auditorium in New Orleans, Magnum TA and Mr. Wrestling 2 defeat the Midnight Express by disqualification. On the 31st, at the Civic Center in Monroe, Louisiana, home of the Monroe Moccasins hockey team. We just went and saw them in that same building the other night. For the Mid-South Tag Team Championships, Magnum TA, Mr. Wrestling 2, defeat the Midnight Express by disqualification. So they had one heck of a month. 32 matches, 31 days. They got their arm raised almost every night, except when they get disqualified. So you could see that they had them working a lot of, I don't know that you really, in 84, that you're going to call Rick Rude and Lanny Poffo enhancement talent. But we later saw George Weingroff in World Class, and he was featured pretty prominently on Fort Worth television for a few weeks. Of course, the gimmick is that he was legally blind. Jumpin' Joe Savoldi, they were all, they were working with him pretty regular, and but they were mixing in that they had put them in the tag team titles. And coming up in March, they're really going to do some neat things. I believe they're eventually going to win the championship. Because Magnum TA and Mr. Wrestling 2 are going to have their falling out. And then Bill Watts will bring in the Rock and Roll Express for them. They're going to tar and feather Magnum. They're going to have the loser receives 10 lashes. They're going to work a lot with Magnum TA and Mr. Wrestling 2. And I think it's interesting that they're going to bring Brian Adias in from Dallas to tag team with Lanny Poffo against them. And that's kind of cool. February was a pretty busy month for them as well. But we're just going to stick with January on this episode. Pretty cool schedule, pretty cool team. You can see, spoiler alert, they are going to win those tag team championships. And I said it on Talking Wrestling last night with Amy, that every good babyface team has a great heel team that helps make them. I'm wearing a Bad Street USA t-shirt. I firmly believe that without the Freebirds, the Von Erichs would not have achieved the heights that they did in 82, 83, and 84. They set that territory on fire, and I don't believe that the Rock and Roll Express and the Fantastics would have done what they did without the Midnight Express. They're a great team. I'll feature them again on this. I appreciate you jumping on with me for this episode. The thoughts and prayers for Dennis Connery's widow. Is terrible way. He fell down and broke his neck. He was paralyzed. Later found by the neighbor when he didn't show up for his to pick his wife up from work. She was a week away from retirement. She's retiring at the age of 67, and she's going to spend more time with him. It's just so sad. So sad that these legends are passing, and what a horrible way to die. It's heartbreaking, but we'll leave it there. And I want to thank y'all for taking a minute to watch this. I'll have a great time doing them. I appreciate all your support here on Markout Moments. Until next time, I'm Pondwater Dave, and this has been That Boy Was Busy.
Thanks for watching. See you next time right here on Markout Moments.